A.D.M. College for Women, Autonomous, Nagapattinam. First of all, we discuss about the topic is Dhtml. Dhtml or Dynamic HTML is a technology that differs from traditional HTML. Dhtml combines HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and the document object model is an DOM to create dynamic content. It uses the dynamic object model to modify settings, properties and methods. Scripting is also an essential component of Dhtml, which was part of earlier computing trends. It is supported by some versions of Netscape Navigator and Internet Explorer version of 4.0 and higher. First one, HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it is a client-side markup language. It is used to build the block of web pages. Next one, JavaScript. JavaScript, it is a client-side scripting language. JavaScript is supported by most of browsers and also has cookie collection to determine the user needs. Next one, CSS. CSS abbreviation is a cascading style sheet. It helps the styling of the web pages and helps in designing of the pages. The CSS rules for Dhtml will be modified at different levels using JS with event handlers, which adds a significant amount of dynamism with very little code. Next one, DOM. DOM, it is also known as a document object model, which acts as the weakest link in it. The only defect in it is that most of the browsers does not support DOM. It is a way to manipulate the static content. Next topic is key features of Dhtml. First one, tags and their properties can be changed using Dhtml. Second one, it is used for real-time positioning. Third one, dynamic fonts can be generated using Dhtml. Next, it is also used for data binding. It makes a web page dynamic and used to create animations, games, applications along with providing new ways of navigating through websites. Next, the functionality of web page is enhanced due to the usage of low bandwidth affected by Dhtml. Dhtml also facilitates the use of methods, events, properties and codes. Why we use Dhtml? Dhtml makes a web page dynamic, but JavaScript also does. The question arises that what different does HTML do? So the answer is that Dhtml has the ability to change a web page's look, content and style. Once the document has loaded on our demand without changing or deleting everything already existing on the browser's web page, Dhtml can change the content of a web page on demand without the browser having to erase everything else. For example, being able to alter changes on a web page even after the document has been completely loaded. Next topic is components of dynamic HTML. Dhtml consists of the following 4 components or language. First one, HTML version 4.0. Second one, CSS. Third one, JavaScript. Fourth one, DOM. First one, HTML version 4.0. HTML 4.0 is a client-side markup language, which is a core component of the Dhtml. It defines the structure of a web page with various defined basic elements or tags. Next one, CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet, which allows the web users or developers for controlling the style and layout of the HTML elements on the web pages. Next one, JavaScript. JavaScript is nothing but it is one of the scripting language which is done on a client side. The various browsers support JavaScript technology. The Dhtml uses the JavaScript technology for accessing, controlling and manipulating the HTML elements. The statements in JavaScript are the commands which tell the browser for performing an action. Next component and last component is DOM. DOM is a document object model. It is a W3 standard, which is a standard interface of programming for HTML. It is mainly used for defining the objects and properties of all elements in HTML. What is the uses of Dhtml? First one, it is used for designing the animated and interactive web pages that are developed in real time. So we using Dhtml. Second one, Dhtml helps users by animating the text, and images in the documents. Third one, it allows the authors for adding the effects on the pages. And next one, it also allows the page authors for including the drop-down menus or rollover buttons. Next, this term is also used to create various browsers based on action games. It is also used to add the ticker on various websites which needs to refresh the content automatically. Next one, features of DHTML. Following are the various characteristics of the features of DHTML. DHTML means dynamic HTML. It is the simplest and main feature is that it can create the web page dynamically. Dynamic style is a feature that allows the users to alter the font, size, color and content of a web page. It provides the facility for using the events, methods and properties, and also provides the features of code reusability. Next, it also provides the features in browsers for data binding. Using DHTML, users can easily create dynamic fonts for their website or web pages. With the help of DHTML, users can easily change the tags and the properties. The page functionality is enhanced because the DHTML uses low bandwidth effect. Next, advantages. First advantage is size of the files are compact in compared to other interactional media like Flash or Shockwave, and it downloads faster. Next advantage is it is supported by big browsers manufacturers like Microsoft and Netscape. High flexible and easy to make changes. Viewers require no extra plugins for browsing through the web page that uses the DHTML. They do not need any extra requirements or special software to view it. One of the most important advantage, user time is saved by sending a less number of requests to the server, as it is possible to modify and replace elements even after a page is loaded. It is not required to create separate pages for changing styles, which in turn saves time in building pages and also reduces the number of requests that are sent to the server. It has more advanced functionality than a static HTML. It is capable of holding more content on the web page at the same time. Next one, disadvantages of DHTML. It is not supported by all the browsers. It is supported only by recent browsers such as Netscape version 6, Internet Explorer version 5.5 and Opera 5 like browsers. Learning of DHTML requires a lot of prerequisites languages such as HTML, CSS, JS, etc. should be known to the designer before starting with DHTML, which is a long and time-consuming itself. Implementation of different browsers are different. So, if it worked in one browser, it might not necessarily work the same way in another browser. Even after being great with functionality DHTML requires a few tools and utilities that are some expensive. For example, the DHTML text editor, Dreamweaver, along with it the improvement cost of transferring from HTML to DHTML makes cost rise much higher. Next topic, difference between HTML and DHTML. HTML is a markup language, while DHTML is a collection of technologies. Next point, HTML is used to create static web pages, while DHTML is capable of creating dynamic web pages. DHTML is used to create animations and dynamic menus, but HTML is not used. HTML sites are slow upon client-side technologies, whereas DHTML sites are comparatively faster. Web pages created using HTML are rather simple and have no styling, as it uses only one language, whereas the DHTML uses HTML, CSS and JavaScript, which results in much better and way more presentable web page. HTML cannot be used as server-side code, but DHTML uses as server-side code. DHTML needs database connectivity, but not in case of HTML. Files in HTML are stored using .htm or .html extension, while DHTML uses .dhtm extension only. Next point, HTML requires no processing from the browser, but DHTML does. Next, Uses of DHTML. First uses of DHTML is DHTML allows authors to add effects to their pages that are otherwise difficult to achieve by changing the DOM and page style. The combination of HTML, CSS and JavaScript offers way to animate text and images in the document, embed a ticker or other dynamic display that automatically refreshes its contents with the latest news, stock words or other data. Use a form to capture user input and then process, verify and respond to the data without having to send data back to the server. Include rollover buttons or drop-down menus. A less common use is to create browser-based action games. Although a number of games were created using DHTML during the 1990s and early 2000s. Differences between browsers made this difficult. Many techniques had to implemented in code to be enable the games to work on multiple platforms. Browsers have since then converged towards web standards, which have made the design of DHTML games more viable. Those games can be played on all major browsers. And in the desktop and device applications that support embedded browsers context. The term DHTML has fallen out of use in recent years as it was associated with practices and conventions that tended to not work well between various web browsers. DHTML support with extensive DOM access was introduced with Internet Explorer version of 4.0. Although there was a basic dynamic system with Netscape Navigator version 4.0, not all HTML elements are represented in the DOM. When DHTML style technique become widespread, varying degrees of support among web browsers for the web technologies involved made them difficult to develop and debug. Develop became easier when Internet Explorer version 5.0 plus Mozilla Firefox version 2.0 and Opera 7.0 is adopted a shared DOM inherited from EasyMA script. Later, JavaScript libraries such as jQuery abstracted away many of the day-to-day difficulties across browsers DOM. Manipulation through better standards compliance among browsers has reduced the need for this. Next, document object model, short form is a DOM. DHTML is not a technology and it is not itself, rather than it is a product of three related complementary technologies: HTML, CSS, JavaScript. To allow the components to access the features of HTML and CSS, the contents of the document are represented objects a model known as the DOM. These are the document object model. The DOM API is the foundation of DHTML. It providing a structured interface that allows access and manipulation of virtually anything in the document. The HTML elements in the document are available as a hierarchical tree of individual objects, making it possible to examine and modify an element. And it attributes by reading and setting properties and by calling methods. The text between elements is also available through DOM properties and methods. The DOM also provides access to user actions such as pressing a key and clicking the mouse. It is possible to intercept and process these other events by creating event handler functions and routines. The event handler receives console each time a given event occurs and carry out any appropriate action, including using the DOM to change the document. Dynamic styles. Dynamic styles are a key feature of DHTML. By using CSS, one can quickly change the appearance and formatting of elements in a document without adding or removing elements. This helps keep documents small and the scripts that manipulate the document fast. The object model provides programmatic access to styles. This means you can change inline styles on individual elements and change style rules using simple JavaScript programming. Inline styles are CSS style assignments that have been applied to an element using the style attribute. You can examine and set the styles by retrieving the style object for an individual element. Next, DHTML JavaScript. DHTML stands for Dynamic HTML. You are also known. Dynamic means that the document of the web page can be customized or changed according to the user input. For example, a page that is interactive with the user. In earlier times, HTML was used to create static web page only. It's only defined the structure of the content that was displayed on the page with the help of CSS. We can beautify the HTML page by changing the various properties like text size, background color, etc. The HTML and CSS could manage to navigate between static pages but couldn't do anything else. If 1,000 users view a page that had that information, for example, admin got that was a problem because 1,000 static pages for this application built to work. As the number of users increases, the problem also increases, and at some point, it becomes possible to handle this problem. To overcome this problem, DHTML came into existence. DHTML included JavaScript along with HTML and CSS to make the page dynamic. This combo made the web pages dynamic and eliminated the problem of creating static page for each user. To integrating JavaScript into HTML, a document object model is made for the HTML document. In DOM, the document is represented as nodes and objects which are accessed by different languages like JavaScript to manipulate the document. What is DOM? DOM or document object is a programming interface that represents a structured document like HTML and XML of tree of objects. It defines how to access, manipulate and modify elements using scripting languages like JavaScript. So basically DOM is an API that represents and interacts with the HTML or XML documents. Next, the DOM is a W3C. What is the W3C? It is a World Wide Web Consortium standard and it defines a standard for accessing documents. The W3C DOM stand is divided into three different parts. First one, Core DOM. Core DOM is defined as standard model for all document types. Next one, XML DOM. XML DOM is a standard model for XML documents only. HTML DOM. HTML DOM is standard model for HTML documents only. First one, HTML DOM. HTML DOM is a standard object model and programming interface for HTML documents. HTML DOM is a way to represent the web page in structured hierarchical way so that it will become easier for programmers and users to glide through the document. With HTML DOM, we can easily access and manipulate tags, IDs, classes, attributes or elements of HTML using commands or methods provided by the document object. Using DOM JavaScript, we get access HTML as well as CSS of the web page and can also modify the behavior of the HTML elements. Why is DOM required? HTML is used to structure the web page and JavaScript is used to add behavior to our web pages. When an HTML file is loaded into the browser, the JavaScript cannot understand the HTML document directly. So, it interprets and interacts with the DOM which is created by the browser based on the HTML document. DOM is basically the representation of the same HTML document but it in a tree-like structure composed of objects. JavaScript cannot understand the tags like H1 in HTML document but can understand the objects in H1 in DOM. JavaScript interprets DOM easily using it as a bridge to access and manipulate the elements. DOM JavaScript allow access to each of these objects. Next is properties of DOM. Let's see the properties of document object model that can be accessed and modified the document object using different functions in DOM. The first one, the document object model is essential in web development for several reasons. Second, dynamic web pages. It allows you to create dynamic web pages. It enables the JavaScript to access and manipulate page content, structure and style dynamically, which interactive and responsive web experiences. such as updating content without reloading the entire page or responding to user actions instantly. Next one, interactivity. With the DOM, you can respond to user actions like clicks, inputs or scrolls and modify the web page accordingly. Next one, content updates. When you want to update the content without refreshing the entire page, the DOM enables targeted changes, making the web application more efficient and user-friendly. Next, cross-browser compatibility. Different browsers may render HTML and CSS in different ways. The DOM provides a standardized way to interact with the page elements. Next, single page applications. Short form is SPAs. Applications built with frameworks such as React or Angular heavily rely on the DOM for efficient rendering and updating of content within a single HTML page without reloading the full page. Next, structure of DOM. DOM can be throughout offers a tree or forest, more than one tree. The term structure model is sometimes used to describe the tree-like representation of a document. Each branch of the tree ends in a node, and each node contains objects. Event listeners can be added to nodes and triggered on an occurrence of a given event. One important is structural isomorphism. If any two DOM implementations are used to create a representation of the same document, they will create the same structure model with previously the same objects and relationships. Why DOM is called an object model? Documents are modeled using objects, and the model includes not only the structure of a document but also behavior of a document and the objects which compose like tag elements with attributes in HTML. First one, Windows object. Windows object is an object of the browser. It's always at top of the hierarchy. It's like an API that is used to set and access all the properties and methods of the browser. It's automatically created by the browser. Second one, document object. When an HTML document is loaded into a window, it becomes a document object. The document object has various properties that refer to other objects which allow an access to and modifications of the content of the web page if there is a need to access any element in HTML page. We always start with accessing the document object. Document object is a property of window object. First one, form object. It is represented by a form text. Second, link object. It is represented by the link text. Next one, anchor object. It is represented by a href, higher reference text. Form control elements. Form can have many control elements such as text, space, buttons, radio buttons, checkboxes, etc. Thank you, Nanda.